This program is provided by Universal Genesis.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into, well, a pretty huge topic.
Yeah.
The history of Western philosophy.
Huge is right.
But we're tackling it with a really bold claim from our sources. Almost, reckless.
Maybe a little.
The idea is that the whole autonomous movement of Western thought, its core structure, can basically be understood through just three figures.
Plato, Aristotle, and Hegel. That's the trio.
Yeah. And this framework suggests that if you get these three, their roles, their relationship, you've kind of got the blueprint. The birth, the maturity, and the summation of philosophy's inner logic.
It's definitely a shortcut.
It feels like a massive shortcut, especially considering, everyone between them, Augustine to Schelling, the sources basically call that entire period theological decoration and mediation.
Ouch. That sounds dismissive.
It sounds provocative, yeah. But the argument isn't really that thinkers like Aquinas or Kant weren't important. They absolutely were.
But from this specific structural perspective, they were mostly working within the frameworks already set up, reinterpreting Plato, using Aristotle's logic, but often, filtering it through Christian theology.
So they weren't fundamentally changing the philosophical architecture itself.
That's the claim. They weren't making new structural moves in the same way these three did.
Right. So our mission today is to explore why this particular trinity is seen as containing all the essential stages. Plato's discovery of the idea.
Aristotle systematizing it.
And Hegel showing its self-development.
Exactly. And the sources give us this great analogy to visualize it. Think of philosophy's whole journey not as a line, but as a single breath.
Or breath.
Or a kind of triangular movement. Ascent, settling into reality, and then a reascent.
Okay, I like that. Ascent, reality, reascent. Let's unpack that triangle. The sources define them by something really simple, right? The direction of their gaze.
Exactly. It's a powerful metaphor. Let's start with Plato.
Okay.
He's the sky gazer.
Yeah.
His whole philosophical energy is vertical. It's all about ascent.
Moving upwards.
Right. Moving the soul away from this messy, changing world we see, the world of becoming, towards that higher, perfect, unchanging world. The realm of the idea.
This is the allegory of the cave, isn't it? Getting out of the shadows, climbing towards the sun.
Precisely. That's the classic image. For Plato, philosophy is that upward journey, searching for the ultimate good. And the way you do it is through anamnesis.
Anamnesis. Okay, what's that simply?
It's basically remembering. The idea is the soul knew the truth, the forms, before it got trapped in a body. So philosophy is about recalling that celestial knowledge, looking up, escaping the physical.
But, okay, if Plato's always looking up, how does he deal with, the ground beneath his feet? You still need to live in this world, right? Even if you're contemplating the forms.
You've hit the core tension, that need to reconcile the ascent with reality. That's exactly where Aristotle comes in. He fundamentally shifts the gaze. Downwards and outwards. He's the ground-gazing philosopher. His move is horizontal observation. Or you could call it a descent. He takes Plato's lofty ideas and says, hold on. We need to find the form, the eidos, not up there somewhere, but right here.
Within matter.
Exactly. Within the things we can actually see and touch and study.
So Aristotle's about observation, natural science, building systems like his physics, ethics, politics, organizing this world.
Yes. He represents the descent of the idea to the ground, bringing philosophy down to earth, asking, how does this stuff actually work?
Okay, Plato ascends, Aristotle descends and observes. So Hegel. He completes the triangle.
He completes it. Hegel is the reascent philosopher. It's a synthesis, but like a spiral.
A spiral ascent.
Yeah. He looks towards the heavens again, like Plato, but only after fully grappling with the earth, with Aristotle's detailed system, with history, with reality itself.
So it's not just the individual soul escaping anymore.
No, not for Hegel. It's the world spirit, the Geist, achieving self-knowledge through the whole process of history and reality. It's integrating the ideal and the real.
Ascent, reality, reascent. Okay, that structure makes sense. Plato, Aristotle, Hegel. Now, the part that really made me pause in the sources was this reevaluation of Aristotle. The claim that he's fundamentally a natural philosopher, not really a metaphysician.
Yes, that's a critical point and maybe a controversial one for some. If Plato is the soul heading for the sky,
And Aristotle's the eye looking at the ground.
and our standard image of Aristotle might be a bit skewed. His primary interest, his real passion, seems to have been physis.
Nature.
Nature, yeah, as this thing that moves, generates itself, changes. And the way to study it is through careful observation, experience.
But hang on, Aristotle's metaphysics, it's like philosophy 101, it's central. How can he not be a metaphysician if he wrote the metaphysics?
Well, here's the twist. He didn't actually call it metaphysics.
Really?
No. That title, ta metaphysica, was added later by editors, librarians, really, and it just meant the scrolls that come after the physics scrolls on the shelf.
Seriously, it was a filing system label.
Pretty much. It wasn't intended to mean beyond the physical or supernatural. It was probably meant as a kind of logical, abstract discussion that followed his study of nature. A theoretical capstone, maybe.
Wow. So a library note accidentally created a whole new discipline, or at least the name for one?
And arguably, it pushed the interpretation of those writings in a direction Aristotle might not have fully intended. It became more speculative, more deductive, maybe moving away from the observational grounding of his physics.
And the sources argue this connects to his idea of teleology, purpose.
Exactly. That's identified as the key issue, the place where a kind of bias creeps in.
Why is teleology a bias? I mean, things do seem to have purposes in nature, don't they? Acorns become oaks.
They do seem to, but the argument is that for Aristotle, this wasn't strictly an observed conclusion. It was more like an ontological belief, almost a precondition he brought to his observations.
Like an assumption.
Sort of. He defined physis, nature, right from the start as something having its own internal principle of movement and rest, aiming towards an end. He essentially baked telos, purpose, into the definition of nature itself.
So he wasn't just observing purpose, he was kind of defining nature as purposeful.
That's the critique. It suggests he couldn't quite accept randomness or pure chance as fundamental. There had to be an inherent order, and this, sources argue, is where he unconsciously inherits Plato's structure.
Even though he rejected Plato's separate world of forms.
He kept the underlying need for inherent order and purpose. He just relocated it. Instead of a transcendent blueprint, Plato's forms, Aristotle posits an immanent tendency within things.
That internal drives, what's the term?
Entelikeia. Think of it as the inner potential or blueprint striving to realize itself. The acorn has the entelecheia of the oak within it.
Okay, so he internalizes Plato's order. What about the unmoved mover? That sounds pretty metaphysical, pretty godlike.
Well, according to this reading, the unmoved mover, or theos, isn't really a personal creator god in Aristotle's original conception. It's more of a logical necessity. To explain continuous motion in the universe, there has to be a starting point. Something that initiates motion without being moved itself. It's a purely formal, logical requirement. A placeholder for the ultimate principle of natural law, you could say.
Not a being who intervenes or cares.
Not necessarily, no. That interpretation, the personal creator god, that was largely layered on later, especially by scholastic thinkers like Aquinas.
Fitting it into the Christian framework, the theological decoration.
Exactly. They took Aristotle's logical concept and mapped it onto their theological understanding of God.
Okay, reframing Aristotle like that, the keen observer, but with this lingering Platonic bias for order, really does set the stage for Hegel, doesn't it? Hegel needs that systematic groundwork.
Absolutely. Hegel builds upon both. He needs Plato's soaring ambition, that drive for the ultimate idea, but he constructs his system using Aristotle's logical tools, the framework.
Right, but you said Hegel is not a natural philosopher like Aristotle.
Not at all. In fact, he's almost the opposite. You could call him a supernatural philosopher.
Supernatural? How so?
Because for Hegel, nature, physis, isn't something to be primarily observed and categorized for its own sake, like Aristotle did. For Hegel, nature is. Well, it's the idea playing dress up.
Dress up.
Maybe not the best term. It's the idea in its state of otherness. The German term is Entäußerung.
Entäußerung. Okay, unpack that a bit.
It means something like externalization, alienation, the idea stepping outside of itself. Nature is the phase where the absolute idea becomes external, objective, seemingly separate from thought.
Why does it need to do that?
So it can eventually recognize itself in that otherness and return to itself, but at a higher, more conscious level. Nature is basically a necessary detour, a tool of the idea for the spirit's journey of self-discovery and reascent.
Okay, nature as a mirror stage for the idea. Got it. So if Hegel isn't using Aristotle's approach to nature, where does Aristotle's system actually come into play for him?
It's fundamental. It comes in through logic. Aristotle gave us the scaffolding, the bone structure of thought.
Formal logic, syllogisms.
Yes. And crucially, the categories, substance, quality, quantity, relation, etc. Aristotle laid them out like tools on a workbench, a fixed system for classifying stable reality. His logic is fundamentally about stability, A is A.
The flat shelf of categories, as the source puts it.
Great image, yeah. So what Hegel does is take that static shelf, that skeleton, and he injects life into it, blood and breath.
Yeah.
He makes the categories move. He turns Aristotle's static logic into a dynamic, generative process. The dialectic...
Being, non-being, becoming.
Exactly. For Hegel, A isn't the end point. A only has meaning in relation to its opposite, non-A, and their tension, their interaction, produces something new, becoming. Logic itself becomes a process of development.
So the categories aren't just labels anymore.
No. They become stages in a process. He transforms Aristotle's flat shelf into this dynamic pyramidal structure. In his Science of Logic, you see this progression. Being gives way to essence, which develops into the concept or idea. Each stage doesn't just sit there, it necessarily generates the next one in this upward spiraling movement.
Wow, so he's using Aristotle's terms, Aristotle's category.
But making them perform Plato's ascent, in a way. It's Plato's spirit of upward movement, but expressed using Aristotle's language, now made dynamic.
The synthesis is complete. Plato's vertical drive, Aristotle's horizontal system, combined in Hegel's dialectical spiral, that PAH sequence. It really does seem to capture the structural evolution.
That's the core argument. Hegel integrates the ideal and the real, the ascent and the system into one comprehensive dynamic logic. He completes the architecture of this autonomous philosophical journey that Plato began.
It's a really compelling framework, intellectually very satisfying. But, when we talk about these huge abstractions, the idea, the spirit, ascent, it's easy to forget the people involved, the human reality behind these grand systems.
Absolutely. And that tension between the grandest philosophical heights and the often messy, very physical reality of being human brings us to a final, maybe provocative thought. It circles back to Plato, the originator.
Okay, let's hear it.
There's an anecdote, probably not historically accurate, but symbolically powerful, reported by Diogenes Laertius about Plato's death.
What does it say?
It claims that Plato, the philosopher who dedicated his life to contemplating the pure, eternal, unchanging forms, the highest ideals, died because he was infested with lice, or possibly scabies.
Wait, really, lice? The founder of Western idealism taken down by bugs.
That's the story. Whether true or not, the symbolic irony is just immense, isn't it?
It's brutal. The ultimate ascent philosopher defeated by the most sort of base crawling aspect of physical existence.
Exactly. The sublime vision brought crashing down by the utterly mundane, even repulsive. It's a stark reminder of the physical reality that philosophy, especially Plato's kind, often tries to transcend.
That really lands with a thud. It brings us right back to Aristotle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The ground gazer.
Yeah.
It suggests that maybe, no matter how high the philosophical system builds towards the ideal,
You're always tethered.
yeah, you're always tethered to the inescapable reality of the body, the earth, the very things Plato sought to leave behind.
Which leaves us, and you, with a final question to ponder. Even after Hegel's grand synthesis, integrating the idea with history and reality, does philosophy in the end always find itself returning not just to the abstract idea, but to the stubborn, messy, physical world that demands our constant, perhaps Aristotelian, attention?
This program is provided by Universal Genesis.